Yeah, so the Super Grands, this was my first Super Grands that I have been to in a decade. It was a goal, being able to win NASKA and NBL in the same year was definitely a goal that I set for myself when I started martial arts 18 years ago. Just being back at Super Grands at the same hotel where I won my first world title, it was definitely definitely a strange moment to put it into words. Just being back there, just the familiar surroundings. And when we went there, I was just seeing a lot of people that I saw when I used to do the NBL circuit. And as I was coming out to the stage, because you come out on stage for the last two fighters for the world title, and just as I'm coming out, and I hear Nathan Skoufis from Guelphite Family Martial Arts, and I'm being coached by Skoufis, being coached by my mom, and everything's running through your head just when I wanted to stop martial arts. Everything that I've been through in the last 18 years to get to that point, it was all worth it. I would do it all again. It really just showed that all the sacrifices at the times paid off as I got to that title. But yeah, it's surreal. It's definitely still setting in for me now. Even though it's been a month since I've claimed the title, being able to do something historic like that, I'm definitely blessed and fortunate to be in that position for it to happen. I had won Super Grands being ranked number one. Wildcard is something, the idea that I've kind of tossed back and forth, and a lot of people told me you shouldn't do it, it's going to be physically exhausting on you. It's something that I tried the initial time that I went to Super Grands. I fought 25 straight fights, and I lost by 1 point to go to stage, and it was definitely, could have been devastating. A lot of people probably didn't know how I would respond to it. I think that tournament is the reason why I came back and I won and set the record for most straight Super Grands wins, that 1 point, because as soon as I got back I started training hard because I wanted to win that title. Winning it unranked and having to fight every opponent, I feel like nobody tries that, nobody has done it, nobody wants to fight wildcard willingly because you're putting your body and just mentally through so much because having to fight every opponent. Yeah, so I willingly gave up my rank. I fought as a wildcard. I fought from the bottom all the way to the top, and I was able to successfully do it this time. Just because I feel like I'm always looking for more challenges in my life. I've done it ranked. It's something that I've already achieved. I wanted to now do it as a wild card. That was my first Super Grands. I couldn't do it successfully. Now, 10 years later, I felt that I was ready to give it another shot to try it out. Yeah, so when I was first starting martial arts, a lot of people don't know that I wanted to give up several points in martial arts. I feel like sticking with it was the best decision that I ever made. My mom joined martial arts to keep me involved in it. We received our black belts together. And unifying the titles, I feel like it just solidifies that all the sacrifices that not only myself but my family made for me was worth it, because I remember my mom, we would go train all over the world with the best people just so it would heighten my level, my experience for tournaments that I was entering. So I remember when she'd finish off work at like 4 o'clock, we'd leave. My brother was in Laurier University at the time. We would go pick him up. We would go train for 3 or 4 hours. We would come back, we'd drop him off at Laurier, and then we'd come home. We'd get home some nights as late as like 1:30 in the morning, and I was like 15 or 16 years old, even younger, and then I would get up and do a whole high school day, and then we would do it again, just because. And I feel like my parents making that huge sacrifice, my mom doing all that, she didn't have to. I wasn't sponsored at the time, like with Hayabusa. We were driving to Chicago, we were driving to Minneapolis, we were driving all these tournaments, and I feel like it was just a culmination of everything that I've been through, all of those times, all of those car rides, all of those late nights training, that you're pursuing your goal. It was all worth it. And those unification of the titles, I'm a student of martial arts, a lifetime student. You could ask me any YouTube video, any martial arts fight, who's fought, how many times they've won, their record against each other, the scores. I would study videos into the early morning hours, and my parents would come down and be like, you should be sleeping, and I'd just be studying, because I wanted to absorb as much as I could. I think a lot of people have different fascinations with Other things, martial arts was definitely my fascination. I feel like you don't pick martial arts picks you. It was just something that really drew me in, and being able to unify those titles, something that nobody has done, because NASKA and NBL are the two biggest sanctioning bodies, but nobody really crosses over to try the other one, just because the rules are different. NASKA starts 2 weeks after the NBL season ends, so it's such a quick turnaround, and a lot of people's bodies and mentally, it's very, very difficult to handle. So that was one goal that I set for myself, to win both of those titles in the same year. And to achieve it now is definitely surreal. It's difficult for me to put into words. It's an awesome moment. I'm very, very, very fortunate to be in this position. Yeah, that was the difficult thing for me right after Super Grands. And I couldn't really, I try not to get caught up in any tournament that I win, or even if I lose, I think about it 24 hours and I move on, if 24 hours. But yeah, the Super Grands unifying the titles, the historic thing that it was, and then turning around to the AK Warrior Cup, which was 2 weeks later, I found it was very, very difficult. Obviously, I have a great team around me that can help me balance all of it, but that quick turnaround, you can't really appreciate the moment as much as people would like me to. As soon as I finished, people said, who's next? What tournament's next? You're already looking to that next one. You can't really sit in that moment. But yeah, the NASKA season just started. In the beginning of the season, they announced the NASKA World Champion, and based on last year's results, I was named the NASKA World Champion for a third straight year, which, again, if you would have told people 10 years ago, they wouldn't have never believed it, but I feel like all the support I've had, I've been able to get to this point. If it was up to me, I definitely would have. When I started martial arts, just like anything, the first few weeks is definitely interesting. That passion kind of went away from me, just because martial arts and the instructors weren't really dealing with it in a positive way. They weren't really motivating you, inspiring you. It was almost like a fear that they had, and just the constant repetition. It wasn't in a very interesting format, I found at the time. And when you're a kid too, I just wanted to be a normal kid. I just wanted to do normal stuff, go home and be able to relax, play video games, hang out with my friends. And you don't really see the benefits, things like perseverance, indomitable spirit, courtesy, modesty, integrity. I didn't really see all of that at the time, right? You don't see all those benefits that are going to be lifelong things, but it's the best thing that I ever did to stick with it. And my mom joining has definitely shown me perseverance in life and dedication. You can't just give up because something's difficult. You got to persevere, because my life, a lot of things would be different now without martial arts being in it. I don't know what I would be doing. Yeah, I have my own studio, Guelph Family Martial Arts here in Guelph. I started the studio in my first year of university. And at the time, a lot of people said, why would you want to take on anything extra? You're already a full-time university student. Just focus on that. And I thought, the community as a whole, not just Guelph, but outside, we have people that travel from everywhere. People are coming from Europe to train with us. People are coming from the States to train with us at our dojo here in Guelph. Just martial arts training would have a positive impact on the community, just on a large scale. Because I feel like if you ask people what's karate about, they're going to say it's about punching, kicking. You're going to learn how to fight, how to defend yourself. That might be true, but martial arts is so much more. It's not just a solely combative thing. I think we use martial arts as a vehicle for our personal development and developing our human potential. And that's the biggest thing that I found. So I thought just using martial arts is great, that I've been able to compete and accomplish some of the things that I have. I feel like a more important thing, though, being able to give back. Whether that's helping a child or an adult that's combating maybe anxiety, depression, maybe doesn't have a proper outlet that they feel that they're listened to. I feel like that's the most important thing for me now, and trying to use the gift and how fortunate I've been now to help people. And our school, I want to say thank you to the Guelph community and everybody, just all the support we've had over the years. I can't repay anyone for what they've done. And our school internationally was voted number 1 in the Top Choice Award, which ranks all the way to the United Kingdom, the U.S. And to be able to win that, we have honestly the best support, and thank you everyone for all the support over the years. This is the second year. Yeah, we've won the Top Choice Award, and yeah, it's very difficult to put into words because it was still a fairly new business, and just like I related it to when I was competing, it took me a long time before I won my first world title, and it was a lot of struggle. But to get there, when you reach that goal, it solidifies everything that all that sacrifice was worth it. The same thing when you're starting a business. You're starting your classes with no people in them. You're starting a name from scratch, and nobody knew what Guelph Family Martial Arts was. And I feel like just the positive impact makes everything worth it. Now we're able to, through the business, be involved in different charity events. We have our own charity gala. We're able to donate to several charities throughout the city, the General Hospital, Big Brothers, the Children's Foundation. And I feel like just being able to give people a chance is the biggest thing. Because if I wasn't involved in martial arts, I was fortunate that I was able to participate because my parents could do that, but I think everyone should have that chance because it's so important. Organized sports for personal development is the number one thing. Yeah, so that's one thing if I would have asked me that 5 years ago. I'm still young, but I feel like I've been around the sport long enough that I'm kind of always thinking kind of what's next. Yeah, father time has never been defeated. It gets everyone. Eventually, everybody again has that time where they've got to step out. I've thought about mine. I try not to look to the end of the tunnel yet, but I know that it's coming. I think it's going to be very difficult to know when is the right time to say, this is it, because this is something that I've been involved with my whole life. This is a lot of what my identity, the messages that I have to people, my lifestyle, what it revolves around. I'm always going to be involved in martial arts, whether it's teaching or the motivational speaking that I do, that I'm lucky enough to be involved with, whether it's like anti-literacy or literacy days or anti-bullying. I feel like, that, and just if I'm not involved competing, I'll still be training, I'll still be doing all of that, but not being in that competitive element. I'm hopefully it never comes to an end, but I know that eventually it's going to happen. So I'm trying to start preparing myself for when that does happen. That's the thing. Your body definitely it's definitely not an easy sport. It's a sprint, and the amount of tournaments that I do, like when there's weeks when I get to April and May, I'll do one every week for a month, and these are the best people you're fighting. So, and even the training that you're putting in, I'm competing all the time, internationally, locally. I'm like 20 tournaments a year. I've kind of scaled it down now. I don't do quite as many, just because of everything that I have going on that I'm balancing. But I'm still out there. I do, like 6-7 NASKA tournaments every single year, and those are all. I think the physical part as well. The training is where you put a lot of that time in as well. It's not only the tournament; it's the lead up to it, the preparation. Because I feel like if you don't prepare, you're not really being honest with yourself that you actually want to win that tournament. Yeah, it was definitely, the first year was definitely difficult. I knew it was going to be difficult, but I thought, there's to help as many people as I can, the benefits that martial arts training are going to have, I have to do this. Even if I'm in first year university, you're only here for a certain amount of years. You want to leave this world a little bit better than when you came here. So that was a big driving force behind me. Just being able to balance, because I'm writing exams, I'm doing essays all the time, and balancing a full-time business. Like I'm here now from 1 o'clock till about 10 o'clock almost every night. I think having a team around me that makes it a lot easier, takes some of the stress off me. I don't have to carry as much weight. But really time management. And you just got to keep moving. You got to balance your time. And that's one thing I always tell people. We have the same 24 hours in a day. Everyone does. But yeah, the martial arts school was something I didn't think I would do at the time that I did. But I saw such a benefit that I said, I need to do this now because the community has given me so much. I need to give back. That's the least that I can do. I've had so many opportunities from just living in Guelph. It's the best city in the world to me. I would never move anywhere else. And I felt like, that this is my impact that I'm going to have on people. This is the reason that I'm here. So there's a few moments that obviously stick with your head, stick in your head. My first tournament, my first national win, I remember that one. It was on my birthday. I won in overtime. That was definitely a surreal moment because just the initial win. I'm always going to remember it. It's one of the only trophies that I actually have in my house that I still keep there because that's the one that I remember and has kind of started everything else. I remember when I got my yellow belt. I remember when I got my black belt. I remember when I won my first world title, just because no Canadian junior competitor under 18 had won one in such a long time. It had been like almost 20 years. And a lot of people just coming up that one point short as a wild card the previous year and then entering. It was just a lot of uncertainty. I thought a lot of people around me that thought, not my family, but even people that were in the competition didn't know if I could do it. Just because before you win that first ring, can you handle the pressure on stage? Because anybody can do it in the dojo. We always compare it. If you put a piece of wood on the ground, you can walk across it on the floor. If you put it 30 stories up, walk across the same piece of wood. It's going to be a very different story. And yeah, I remember that first world title. To be honest, I remember almost all of the world titles that I've won. I try to really remember them. And the first fight that I really remember now, I fought as an adult. I started fighting as an adult locally just because people said they didn't view me fighting as a junior or challenger anymore. They thought it was easy, so I said I'm going to take a bigger risk. At 12 years old, I started fighting as an adult, so I was fighting 30-year-old competitors. I learned a lot. In the final at Army Rizzo's tournament, which was the Canadian Open, the biggest tournament where I used to go as a kid and watch. I got to the final, and I was fighting a really, really good fighter nationally, internationally. And I remember people said, "Who are you fighting in the final?" And I told them, they go, "Ooh." And I had sparred with him years before, and I didn't hit him at all. And when we fought in the final, I believed in my preparation, and I was able to come out on top. And I still remember that one. It was one that still, I'll never forget it because that was my first major grand champion win. And to do it at a tournament that I used to go to watch as a kid and study the competitors was just a very emotional. I remember it was very emotional for not only me, but for those around me, just because a lot of people thought as a kid entering into the men's division is going to be a bad choice. So that's definitely one that stuck with me. And most recently, being able to unify the titles. There's nothing, for me, that's a goal I set almost 2 decades ago. To be able to reach it now, I can't put it into words. Still now, it's very, very difficult to put into words. It's surreal. Just the overwhelming support I got from the city when I got back. As soon as I got back, while I was down there, the Guelph community has been amazing to me over the years, and I really do appreciate it. Yeah, so that's definitely motivational speaking has become a bigger outlet that I'm pursuing now. Competing, but karate is my true passion. People have obviously talked to me about the UFC. I've trained with a lot of MMA fighters. Over the years, I know that style very well. I think that down the road, that's something definitely I would pursue. But the gold medal in the Olympics, which is understood around the world as being the pinnacle for a lot of sports, to bring that back to the community would be surreal for me. Just because a lot of people think, because you live in a small city like Guelph or any surrounding area, it's not possible. You have to live in a big city, and if you don't, it's never going to happen for you. So that was the unifying the titles was the same thing to show people that it is possible. If you work hard, it doesn't matter where you're from, regardless of the population, you can reach the highest level. The Olympics, I think, would be the same thing. It wouldn't be just for me. It would be obviously a great goal, not only to qualify for the Olympics, win that gold medal, and bring it back for the community because I've had so much opportunity from being here, and just to show the youth and the adults here that we accomplished a gold medal together.